Hello everybody, welcome back to the WTF1 Podcast, where we are well within car launch season, which means new liveries, new chatter, and we thought what better way than to release another WTF1 Podcast for you guys and your pleasure, and to just discuss our opinions and a few talking points from some of the car launches that have happened. And of course, we have a couple of people next to me virtually, one of them being Tom Bellingham, the WTF1 founder, if you didn't know. How are you, Tommy? You well? You found anything else? Since the last podcast?
No, I haven't. I'm enjoying my last day of childhood because it's my birthday tomorrow. So I'm going to be an adult tomorrow. Finally.
An adult tomorrow? Wait, aren't you like 42? So that makes you...
Don't remember. I'm 13 according to most of the comments.
That's true.
So what are you actually
32
turning?
Tomorrow.
I thought it was 57.
That's an actual joke. And Katy.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Are you going to ask me my age?
Of course. And no, never. That is rude. Are you 58?
The face cream is very good that I use. That's all I'm going to say.
It's only Tommy that's particularly deceiving with his age, because everyone thinks, how on earth has he been around for 10 years of WTF1? Anyway, I digress. We carry on. Car launches, of course. And one of the main talking points at the moment was Haas, that was launched today. And there's a few questions that you guys got involved with using the hashtag WTF1 Podcast. Andy ShipX says, how or why have the FIA approved the Haas livery when it's so clearly representing Russia and the athlete driving the car? I love the way that Andy went around not naming who's driving for them. But of course, there's this whole debacle, isn't there, where Russia can't compete in any sort of tournaments and no one can represent them, right, Tommy? And I hear in my ear, correspondent Tom Bellingham on the ground has some more information for us.
Yeah, so if you don't know, to answer Andy's question, the understanding is, yes, it's been approved by the FIA because I guess liveries need to be, just in case there's anything maybe inappropriate on them. But if you didn't know, in 2009, the World Anti-Doping Agency banned Russia essentially from competing or like being represented in sport. So if you watch athletics or other sports, you'll notice a lot of the time the Russian athletes have a neutral flag. And in February this year, it was announced that that would extend to Formula One because it's a world championship. So Mazepin and Kvyat, I guess if Kvyat ends up returning as he is the Alpine reserve driver this year, they're not allowed to race under the Russian flag. Now I was reading into this, and credit to racefans.net that said he is not allowed to bear the image of the Russian flag or its national symbols such as the two-headed eagle on his sporting equipment, in this case his car. However, he may incorporate the colours of the Russian flag. And I mean, it's a Russian flag, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's not even just the colours. The livery is pretty much a Russian flag draped over the car, which I can understand why a lot of people maybe aren't particularly happy about it, because there's this ban where you're not allowed to represent Russia, and you'd argue that for Mazepin to have a tiny little Russian flag next to his name, or even a Russian flag on his helmet, is probably arguably worse, and he's representing them even more to have that livery that's essentially a Russian flag as a livery.
This is news as well that's not just stuck to Formula One, like other publications are picking this up because it is a very controversial thing. Like Tommy said, the FIA have approved the livery, so they have said that it's okay, but certainly a surprise, I think, for quite a lot of us. I was messaging Tommy this morning and saying, I'm predicting that the Haas livery is probably going to be the same kind of colour scheme that we saw last year, and then we were presented with that, and like everybody's first thought, it's literally just Russia on a car, isn't it? I suppose Haas could try and twist it to be like, it's the red, white and blue of the American flag, but anyone with a brain cell looks at that car and thinks Russia. But the thing that has probably influenced this, as well as Mazepin racing for them this year, is they have a new title sponsor called Uralkali. I hope I've pronounced that okay, which is a Russian potash fertilizer producer and exporter. So there you go, something for you to know. Yeah, naturally very linking to F1 that. And
yeah, that's almost as badly linked as the
BWT.
bad sponsors we did wasn't it, the other week, and it was the men's genitalia one.
Yeah,
in particular,
Tokyo
that won Le Mans,
Clinic.
I think, with McLaren.
Yeah, that is a weird sponsor. But there are links there. Dmitry Mazepin, which is Nikita Mazepin's father, he is deputy chairman of the board of directors there. In December 2013, Dmitry Mazepin acquired a 20% stake in the world's largest potash producer, which is the Uralkali, and that was estimated to be worth about 2.9 billion. So about a week's worth of pocket money for Nikita Mazepin.
Cool. R Done Zero says, will Gene Haas eventually sell his team to the title sponsor? You have to wonder. There's a few rumblings of other teams wanting to join Formula One, which is brilliant. You wonder, as things progress and everything goes more towards electric, whether car manufacturers would want to stay in Formula One. But that there seems to be a little bit of interest there, and yeah, you do think maybe Gene Haas has had enough pain now with everything that's gone on. You've had Rich Energy sagas, you've of course had the Mazepin thing, which is ongoing, and yeah, you do wonder whether he just wants to bow out pretty soon and just take the paycheck and get out.
Yeah, going back to Katy's point actually very quickly, with the Uralkali, I genuinely don't know how to say it.
Uralkali.
I just read it as alkali.
Yeah,
like
Uralkali.
So you mentioned about the title sponsor and they might claim it. I was actually looking into the title sponsor, and the corporate colours of them are green and red. So it's not even like they can claim that it's to do with that sponsorship. It almost makes it even more clear that it's a deliberate sort of move from Team Mazepin to essentially say, let's get the Russian flag on the car and, cover it in a big Russian flag, because, yeah, the corporate colours are green and red. So you think naturally, if you look at BWT or even Red Bull or Rich Energy or whatever, a lot of the time the title sponsor determines what colour scheme the car is. But here, it's a green and red sponsor logo, but they've even changed their own corporate brand colours to make it even more Russian. But anyway, back to the Gene Haas thing.
But before you go to that, I just want to say, from my opinion, it's a bit tasteless, personally. The fact that clearly there's so many strings being pulled within Haas and obviously the Russian side of things, and I just doesn't sit right with me. How it, I don't know what words that would be best to describe it, but just
money talks.
To see it. Yeah, money does talk, definitely. But it's just so weird to see a brand get overhauled by one person in this way. Like, we've seen obviously pay drivers come in, etc. But to see it done in this way, and it is almost like every loophole they can find, they will jump through. And yeah, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. Obviously the whole situation doesn't sit right with me anyway, and this just makes things even worse. I mean, you look at Mick Schumacher, he's, the hype around him, and the fact that he's gone into a team that's been receiving a huge amounts of backlash. I do feel sorry for him. But he's no sort of unknown. He's Michael Schumacher's son. And the fact that he's kind of roped in all of this as well, yeah, I don't know, just it feels weird. It feels like a one-person team, and it's not Mick Schumacher.
Yeah, and it says it all that if you look at the sponsorship, it's pretty much all gone. A lot of that Russian flag is covering huge gaps on the car. Essentially, they've got the title sponsor and a new sponsor, 1&1, and that is about it. Pretty much so. Even some of the lower teams have
There's
more
small
than
sponsors on the bottom, isn't there? But like Under Armour I saw and things like that. But like they are tiny.
I think there's about 5 sponsors overall for the whole team. Which, if you look at someone like McLaren, they're absolutely plastered in them, and a lot of other teams are as well. Even smaller companies. But yeah, it does very much seem like you say, Mick Schumacher almost completely forgotten in this, and it is just Team Mazepin, which, back to the Gene Haas question, it is very much looking like that team is going to become Team Mazepin in the future. It really doesn't feel like a Haas anymore. I wrote something on the Twitter that, imagine telling an outsider, a family member or friend that doesn't know about Formula One, and they're watching it, and you go, see that car with the big Russian flag on? That's the American team in Formula One, especially with the history between those two countries.
I knew you'd bring up your banging tweet, Tommy. I knew you would.
But it's just like, it's so strange, isn't it, to think, the American flag is now gone from the Haas. It doesn't feel like
it is there.
an
It's
American
tiny.
team
There's
at
a
all.
tiny
Teeny
American
tiny,
flag
yeah.
amongst the
Oh, is there?
sponsors, I
Okay.
think. Didn't
Yeah,
spot
on
that.
near the base of the
Tiny.
car.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Minuscule.
very minimal, and the Russian flag is essentially predominantly the livery now. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is just a kind of like moving over phase from it being Haas to essentially Team Russia or Team Mazepin or Team Uralkali or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah, even the Haas logo has changed to incorporate the red, white and blue. So there's plenty of changes going on. But I think when it was announced that Gene Haas was coming into Formula One, obviously he's somebody that has pre-existing teams in motorsport. There was a lot of excitement about it, but it just hasn't worked as well as obviously he was hoping. I don't know if he came into F1 with the attitude that things just work out in his way, because certainly when we've seen him on things like Drive to Survive, he seems to have a very relaxed attitude. And there's been quite a lot of controversy around the Haas team in the short time they've been in Formula One, whether that's with the Rich Energy sponsorship and how badly that went sour, to now obviously hiring Mazepin as one of their drivers.
Even
he wasn't really a
copying
name.
Ferrari, that was their first, even
Yeah.
them coming straight into the sport. They've never been shy of controversy, have they? So
no, and it surprises me is like the fact that Gene Haas, like that's his name. His name is being dragged through the mud with every single controversy they have, and he still seems relatively unscathed and unbothered by it. So perhaps he's just ready to rinse his hands of F1. He doesn't care anymore, and we could see him departing the sport. But obviously, for reasons, I would rather him stay than have a Team Mazepin. But that's just personal opinion.
I shiver at the thought. But yeah, I'm sure Gene Haas feels a little bit better when he's on his yacht. But
Yeah.
I know what you mean. His name is very much being memed out of, and a lot of negative sentiment towards the team, which is completely and utterly fair. We interrupt this WTF1 podcast for a very quick chat about our sponsor for this episode, Beer 52. How does a free case of 8 Belgian craft beers sound? You can celebrate the country's ancient and world-famous beer expertise with a case of 8 craft beers from some of their finest breweries for free. All you have to do is go to www.beer52.com/WTF1 and cover the £5.95 postage, and Beer 52 will deliver them straight to your door. But remember, you have to be over 18. Beer 52's beer boffins are on a mission to find the very best beer anywhere on the planet. Every month they visit a different country, find the best small batch breweries, sample their finest craft beer, and then carefully curate a case to be sent to their lucky members. It's a hard job, but someone has to do it. Each case also comes with the award-winning beer magazine, Ferment, as well as a tasty snack to enjoy with your beer. There's no minimum commitment, you can just take the free case, try the beers and see what you think. If it's not for you, you can pause or cancel at any time. Just go to www.beer52.com/WTF1 to claim your free case of 8 craft beers. But remember, 18 over. That's www.beer52.com/WTF1. Right, back to the podcast. So, interesting, one more question on Haas, and it's from Caldery Philip. Or Philip Caldery. Could Rich Energy be with Haas, as they said they would become title sponsors next year? I mean, imagine that. Imagine if Rich Energy popped up in the first race in Bahrain as well. I think Rich Energy were chatting out of their arses, to be honest. But people are saying maybe Williams.
No,
I don't know.
I think I mean, this could age really badly because the Williams is getting released tomorrow, and when it's black and gold,
that's why I said maybe
I'm
Williams, Tommy. I was covering off the clip.
Covering her for looking like an idiot. I'm going to put myself on the line and say this is just proof now that the Rich Energy stuff was absolute rubbish. Everyone said, oh, it's the Alpha, and then the Alpha got launched. Then it's like, oh, maybe it's the Haas. Oh, no, then the Haas got launched. Then Williams, and then the Williams merchandise got launched, and they were like, oh, maybe it's this. And it just seems to be like, they had their announcement where they pretty much announced nothing. They just said, we've acquired a stake in a Formula One team. And it was a classic like politicians thing where they speak but don't actually tell you the point of what they're saying. It's just a lot of words. And for me, now every single car is getting released and there's no logos. I think it's clear that they're just doing these things to get people talking about them. And, at the end of the day, they've gone for the approach of any sort of publicity is good publicity. You see, clearly Williams' story. He was tweeting the other day about Mazepin is a future world champion and stuff, which while some people may believe that, fair enough if some people believe that, but you just know with him it's clearly just bait. Like he's saying that because he knows, he's seen the reaction, and he knows if he does that kind of thing, and he's getting people talking. So yeah, I would be amazed if Rich Energy are back. I think it's just a load of rubbish personally.
Yeah, I think it's a load of nonsense. Should we use that word? Conveniently, when Rich Energy were coming up with a statement saying, that they were going to be in F1, they were promoting a sugar-free version of their Rich Energy drink, which is, to me, super ironic, seeing as you can't even buy the original stuff anywhere. So why are they releasing a sugar-free version of it? But anyway, I'm not here to promote the products that Rich Energy are releasing. But yeah, I'm with you guys in that I think that it seems very, very unlikely that we will see Rich Energy on a car this year. They seem to suggest in this stupid video that Williams Story released a few weeks ago that they could potentially be returning to the grid as a title sponsor for a team in 2022. But I think I also saw a pig flying outside my window, so I wouldn't put any money on it.
Yeah, I mean, they could land on the moon, couldn't they? They'd just come out with anything to just stay in the public eye somehow.
Somebody needs to make like a bot account of like the next thing that Rich Energy are going to be doing is, and come up with all these stupid scenarios.
Yeah, and people. So I see some people go, well, don't give them the exposure. Why are you even talking about them? Because they were in Formula One. They're meme worthy. They're a joke of a company. We don't think that us talking about them is going to affect them being back or not. If they're going to come back, they will. If they have the money, they will. It doesn't seem like they have any money and they couldn't pay anyone. But, it's still a talking point either way. So it's like when the Nigerian prince came into Formula One and had a very similar story, didn't he? About promising a energy drink and all this sort of stuff. So it's very strange parallels there. Anyway, moving on away from that team. Moving on to Aston Martin's very unusual launch. Seemed like it was more of a rebrand and a relaunch of the entire team rather than just the car itself. And fair to them, it was different. They tried to get people talking by putting very strange and random things in it. And overall, I mean, yeah, it wants to promote discussion. I don't know if they went maybe a little bit overboard with some things. There's a few questions here. PMC Gra says, how awkward was it watching Gemma Arterton interviewing Seb, Lance and the others, not having a clue what she was on about and having to try and read an auto cue and look at them? Get someone who knows something about Formula One. Yeah, it was awkward. There was at one point she even said, 1 second, who am I talking to? Or something along those lines, where clearly she didn't have a clue what question she was asking to who, and it seemed really weird. If it was premiered on YouTube, then it must have been pre-recorded, right? But for some reason that wasn't edited out, and it's just a very strange, odd launch. I liked the fact that they're trying to bring this British, Aston Martin is our car, amazing, but some of the stuff was just top-level awkward, and yeah, it was quite hard to watch at times, and I turned it off eventually.
Yeah, we were watching it. There was a lot of celebrity cameos, wasn't there? Obviously you had
Tom Brady
was a very peculiar one. it's awkward. This even I can't remember his name. Tom Fenton, I think his name is, the guy that plays Draco Malfoy in.
Felton?
Yeah,
Tom
that's
Felton?
the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that plays Draco in Harry Potter. Tweeted a picture of the livery, and it seems like they've got all these celebrities involved and influencers and stuff. But it kind of, unfortunately, when they do these things, and it's the same as Grand Prix, the problem is for Formula One fans, they look at these people and go, "You don't care about Formula One. You've never cared about Formula One or tweeted about Formula One. Why are you there?" It reminds me of there was a great bit. I watched some highlights from Baku the other day, and at the start of the race you had Christina Aguilera waving the flag, and David Coulthard on the commentary just goes, and here we see Christina Aguilera pretending to care about Formula One. And it's just and it's so funny, but it's so true that fans look at that a lot of the time and just go, I don't really care, to be honest. I want to hear from Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll and find out, what's happening with the car and all this kind of stuff. And I mean,
that's a very good point, because car launches aren't for the casual, are they? They're for the hardcore. The people that tune into car launches aren't going to be the ones that only watch a Sunday race. So it was a very strange way to go down that route of not really speaking to the drivers at all, and it all being very forced and scripted.
Yeah. But
I suppose it's such a huge step in Aston Martin's direction that maybe they wanted to make it this big song and dance, and getting people like Gemma Arterton. I'm guessing she's got some previous history with Aston Martin. Maybe she's a brand rep or something like that. But she was also in Quantum of Solace, the Bond movie, and we saw plenty of references to the Bond franchise. We had a cameo from Daniel Craig, which looked like he was in some sort of hostage situation. The way it was recorded, it was really rather odd. Yeah.
So true.
And I did panic at one point because there was a question about, I love the James Bond movies, and they said to Lance and Seb, who is James Bond and who is Q? And Q being the quartermaster for the Bond films, and they said, oh, I don't know who is Q, and they asked Gemma Arterton, and then she froze, and I was thinking, don't tell me you've been a Bond girl, don't tell me you don't know the difference between James Bond and Q. But the whole thing was just really strange, and I really like the opening sequence where they had this dramatic film and the rapper Dave doing a commentary over it. I thought that was great. It gave me goosebumps, really good. But yeah, the launch as a whole was just quite bizarre, and like they said, Gemma Arterton is probably somebody that hasn't got a great deal of interest or knowledge in Formula One, so
oh no, that's confirmed.
Yeah, 100%.
She was reading everything off the auto cue, and
people tuning in and seeing Daniel Craig looking in a hostage situation, then it cutting to Lawrence Stroll. People are probably like, oh, is this the new Bond movie?
Literally, Lawrence Stroll is the perfect supervillain in any James Bond film, or any film for that matter. He is, quite frankly, a scary man.
Looked there he meant business. We said it, didn't we, during our watch along? He was the front and centre of it. He's kind of maybe sat back a little bit with the other teams, but he was there front and centre, I mean business, this is my venture now, we're going to win. It really did kind of build that whole super team vibe kind of thing where they're we're taking over F1, we're going to be massive.
Yeah, I like that.
I
like that. There's a big personality like Lawrence Stroll.
Just for heads up.
No, absolutely. Because before he was very much sort of behind the scenes, didn't really say much to camera, but now I feel like he wants to take more of a front and centre role now that he's obviously hugely involved.
Yeah, it's good.
And you get the feeling that if you put too much milk in his tea, he'll fire you. So it's quite an interesting dynamic that I think if they do get towards the front of the field, how he will have run-ins with Toto Wolff and Christian Horner and that sort of stuff. And so going to be very interesting to see how that all pans out. And I hope Aston Martin do get towards the front, because I like them as a brand, and I think they've got a very cool looking car, and obviously want Seb to do well. I hope he does come back revitalised. I still have my doubts, but let's see in Bahrain. Another question. Ostrich on toast. Who do you think will win the midfield battle? Aston Martin are looking pretty strong, in my opinion. I mean, Ostrich on toast has clearly seen some private testing that we haven't seen. Obviously, we have to base it off last year, and I think overall Racing Point, Aston Martin, were the fastest car over the course of the year. They just didn't really execute on some in some races. So you have to say, going into this season, I would say Aston Martin are the favourite to be third in the constructors. Not to say that will definitely happen. They've got a huge amount of resource, so I think it's very likely. But you have also got McLaren are on a strong upward trend as well, so it's going to be close, I think.
Yeah, when I read this comment, I felt exactly the same thing. That it's funny. Maybe Lawrence Stroll's talk worked, because I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, Aston are looking good, aren't they? They're looking strong." Sebastian Vettel, is he going to challenge for race wins and all this kind of stuff? And we just think, we've not even had any pre-season testing yet. This team has literally never driven in a Formula 1 session. I know they were Racing Point last year and we can judge a little on that, but if you're judging on that, they're an upper midfield team. So yeah, clearly the Aston hype has worked with a lot of people, because like we said earlier, they do seem to mean business. That whole launch really did show like we're taking this very seriously, and they seemed like they were just a big team that wanted to challenge the likes of Mercedes, Ferrari, and I think they're saying that in the media as well, that they want to be this massive brand.
They said that the British Ferrari,
exactly.
Right?
So it's kind of, I guess the other side of it is, if they become a total flop, it's going to be quite embarrassing for them that they've got this big team mentality. You saw it with BAR. They came into the sport, pumped loads of money in, got a former world champion in Jacques Villeneuve, and then the first year they were an absolute mess. So I don't think it would be that bad, but they definitely need to deliver. So yeah, going to be interesting to see whether they do become a Mercedes challenger one day.
Yeah, they can talk the talk, but can they walk the walk is what we all want to know. But yeah, like you say, they said all of these things that fans want to hear, that they're going to be hopefully challenging for this and doing that. But time will tell when we actually get to pre-season testing. Obviously, the car, looking at it, looks very similar to the Mercedes, which lots of people made that Racing Point reference to the Racing Point last year. But sometimes, well, most of the time, there's more to actually how a car will perform than to maybe how it looks in a render that we get sent. But yeah, I'm looking forward to pre-season testing, and even more so to Bahrain, and seeing how they perform.
Especially speaking about renders, and there's a lot of secrecy over the Red Bull, and just to mention that in terms of people that don't know, that see these launch pictures and stuff, you had McLaren who tweeted a picture, and it looked like, obviously a lot of cars now with their livery, they paint black all around the barge boards and underneath, so it kind of hides them a little bit. And McLaren put a picture up on Twitter, and someone changed the exposure, like a lot of people do when they want to see liveries and see a bit more of the car and stuff, and they'd literally scribbled it out in Photoshop, all the barge boards and everything, so it was just blacked out completely. So a lot of teams already, even in launch photos, they don't want to show anything.
Let the games begin.
Yeah, you have to say that's the way to go, isn't it? With these launches, you don't want to give away anything. What's been our favourite launch so far? Not livery, but launch. Thinking off the top of my head,
it's really difficult. I think we said
there's not been one where you've gone, oh my god, that is unbelievable. But then it is very difficult in COVID times. Of course, you have to be, quite wary of that, don't you? But yeah, it's McLaren's. Obviously, we had our questions, didn't we? Alpine had the laggiest thing in the world.
That was bad.
Red Bull just launched a picture. That's the thing. We mentioned this on the watch-alongs.
Yeah, Red Bulls. Red Bulls was the best because it was just a picture.
We've had this on the watch-alongs where, unfortunately, they're a little bit damned if they do, damned if they don't, because we had the McLaren launch where you had 30 minutes of them playing the drums and all that kind of stuff and doing something a bit fun and having a bit of fan interaction and all that.
Yeah,
and then everyone's in the comments like, oh, bit cringe, come on, where's the car? And then equally you have Red Bull or Haas where it's just like, here are the pictures, and then some people
Here's
are like,
the car.
You've got all this money and publicity, why would you not do some kind of launch? So
Mercedes, I think, was the best launch. Exactly what we wanted. We had insight from everybody. We heard from Toto
They
Wolff.
leaked their own car early,
But
so they
yeah.
didn't have to worry about leaks.
Yeah, it's such a strange strategy.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
I'm going to say Aston Martin, despite its flaws, just the fact that they did something and they clearly wanted to put on a big launch event, and they knew there was so much hype around it. And to be fair, I think when we were watching the stream, there was something like 150,000 people watching it, so they did something right.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Alfa Romeo, because that was so Eurovision and
Oh, yeah.
corny at times, like the grand piano and this girl doing the dancing and all this kind of stuff. That actually took me a little bit by surprise and made me chuckle. So I'm going to go for Alfa Romeo. Plus the car also looked great, but that's not part of the question.
And the credits, poor Giovinazzi
Yes.
went over his face like the end of Monsters Inc., where it covers Mike.
Incredible.
Yeah. The poor guy, honestly.
Like
Not that great.
Robert
can he?
Kubica, who's the reserve driver, but obviously it's like Orlan and the sponsorship and stuff, and they're like, let's put the credits over Giovinazzi. Poor guy.
Poor kid.
Final question, actually, from XRL Racing League. Should teams be allowed to change their livery mid-season? Maybe if they have a matte livery normally, they could have gloss or metallic for night races.
Interesting theory.
Please.
I wouldn't mind, if they wanted to tweak it. I think full-blown changes like we see with helmets, that would be ridiculous and stupid, and not many people would be able to keep up with who's what if they were constantly changing liveries or that sort of stuff. But I don't have any problem with it. I don't think it would change, or I think it would be a waste of resource for a lot of Formula One teams. I think once they've made their car look a certain way, that's it.
Yeah.
The rest of the focus goes on actually developing it.
If you watch IndyCar, a lot of the based on the kind of where it is in America and stuff, they have different sponsors every race, and the car might be like white and red one week, and then the next it's blue and yellow, and can be awfully confusing. So I don't want to see that. However, yeah, it would be nice to see maybe, like how Ferrari had their special livery at Mugello. One idea that has been thrown around before is NASCAR do something where they have a retro race, and it's almost like Goodwood Revival, where all the teams run retro liveries, and the teams kind of have like their old school gear, and they have a bit of fun with it. And obviously we saw the Ferrari in Mugello and Mercedes when they did the scratched paint on the white, which didn't go well in Germany, we all remember. So why not Monaco? Because some kids these days clearly don't like it and can't enjoy the race. So get some
Be a livery off.
You run a classic livery for Monaco as a special.
That would be so
race.
cool. I'm going to start a petition, send it to Stefano Domenicali, make this happen. But that would be...
That sort of stuff is cool, though, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that as an idea.
Yeah, like when I saw this question come up for the podcast, I thought, actually, I never thought of that before, but having like a sparkly metallic livery for things like Singapore and night races and stuff, that would be so cool. Maybe they could do something like they used to have with the helmets, where you could have like one livery change a season, but then I suppose it could get confusing for new fans and stuff turning in.
I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like that might be a rule anyway.
Oh,
or
okay.
they're at least one. So like Ferrari had it one year, and Red Bull did the Star Wars thing at Monaco and all that kind of stuff. So then it has to be approved by all the teams. But if you did one race where everyone's allowed to do it, it might be quite fun.
I want the retro. That would be so cool.
But as much as we would love to see it, it's very unlikely.
It takes a lot.
It's a nice idea.
We can dream though, right?
Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Right, guys, Tommy, final thoughts?
I did actually have a final thought.
Exciting!
This isn't paid. Because Beer 52 sponsor this podcast. I actually got sent a crate of Beer 52. And one, you like this, one of the beers in it was called Founder.
I love how you said this isn't paid.
It is actually paid.
Is.
But as in, I've not been...
We should probably clarify it.
But I thought you'd appreciate that there was a
Founder.
There was
Wow.
a can of Founder in there.
Wow.
Have you drunk it yet?
No. I might
Okay.
enjoy it.
I look forward to
I'll do
seeing
a
a
review.
video of you drinking yourself.
Yeah.
That's weird. I just said that out loud. That sounds really weird. Katy, final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I know there's a cider called Katy cider, which is probably about the closest we're going to get, but I have no final thoughts apart from that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that
insight.
Insight there, Katy.
No worries.
Cool. We've still got obviously some liveries to be released and launches to happen, so we will be doing a podcast ranking our favourite and worst liveries coming up next week. And that's pretty much it. Make sure to check out Beer 52, our sponsor. Thank you, Tommy, for the segue. Be sure to give us 5 stars, thumbs up, wherever you are, whatever you're listening on or watching on. And if you want to get involved with the questions, then hashtag WTF1 Podcast, and make sure to follow us on socials at WTF1 Official. That's it. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.